Good evening. Hope everyone's doing well. My name is Fran Jansen, and I'm with the Arkansas State Treasurer's Office. And on behalf of the Arkansas Financial Education Commission and the Central Arkansas Library System, I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. We have a really good program to kick off our 6-part series on financial planning. And tonight's session is called Now is the Time to Learn About Personal Finance, Basics and Planning for Beginners. And our presenter tonight is Dr. Kris Bertelsen, and he is a senior economic education specialist with the Little Rock branch of the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis. And just a little bit about his background so you understand what good hands will be in for the next hour. He has served on various boards and committees, including the President's Advisory Council on Financial Literacy, the National Assessment of Educational Progress Economics Writing Committee. He's been an author and content reviewer for the Council of Economic Education and the Arkansas Department of Education Social Studies Standards Revisions Committee. And he has also served as a past president for the Arkansas Jumpstart Coalition. Dr. Bertelsen graduated from St. Cloud State University in Minnesota. He earned his master's degree in economic education and entrepreneurship from the University of Delaware and his doctorate from the University of Central Arkansas, where he researched entrepreneurship with corrections populations. So before I hand it over to Dr. Bertelsen, just a few housekeeping details. Everyone joining us tonight will be muted, and however, at the bottom of your screen, or however you have it configured, if you do have a question that you would like to ask him, please send it to us in the chat, and he'll either address it during the presentation or we'll keep up with them and do it at the very end of at the conclusion of his presentation. Also, we are recording tonight's presentation, so if there would be a reason for you to want to watch it again or forward it to somebody in a few days, that will be available not only on the Central Arkansas Library System's website, but also the State Treasurer's website. So with that, I will be quiet and hand it over to Dr. Bertelsen.
All right, well, thank you very much, Fran. What a kind introduction, I appreciate that. Again, I'm Kris Bertelsen. I've been at the Little Rock branch here almost 11 years. So prior to that, I taught high school, mostly economics and personal finance. So I had classroom background, and so again, if you have questions, anything like that at any time, please don't hesitate to ask those through the chat there. The other thing I'd like to say before I put my PowerPoint up here is, I'm sure you might be thinking a guy from the Federal Reserve Bank with a bow tie on. Hopefully this will be valuable for you, and we'll have a little fun. So please interact if you have questions, and we're gonna try to have a fun learning session here this evening. And a big thanks to both Fran at the Treasurer's Office as well as Nathan at CALS for helping us put this event together. So I'm going to stop my video and share my PowerPoint screen with you. And again, if you have questions, you can put those in the chat, and I'll address those either right on as we're going through or at the end. So tonight's presentation, we're talking about budgets and planning, and really kind of a basic look at how you get started in that. And so what I've put together for you is a combination of resources and some ideas. And I'm going to try to go through those and leave us some time at the end for questions. But some of the things that you'll see here, you'll be able to go back and look for on our website, or I'll mention a couple of other websites as well. But that's how we'll we'll set things up here. So I'll just introduce you to a few concepts and some resources that you can go check out if you're so inclined. So our session this evening, we're going to do some trivia questions here just to open things up and get you kind of thinking about personal finance related issues. And then I'm going to go right through into kind of these three areas you see bulleted: human capital, decision making, and then budgeting and planning. And I'll try to do those three things. And if we have time, I'll show you some resources for upcoming webinars in this series. You see my contact information here on the left, and you can reach out to me at any time. I'll show you this again at the end of the session. But the reason I'm on this slide is I do have to say that these views are mine and not those of the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis or the Federal Reserve System. So there's my disclaimer. All right. So if you have a pencil, pencil, I'd like you to try these 4 questions, see how you do. And then at the conclusion of those trivia questions, we'll move more into the topic as it relates tonight. So the first question, many poor people become millionaires by winning the lottery. True or false? Many poor people become millionaires by winning the lottery. Okay, and I'm going to move kind of quickly through these because of our time constraints here. The answer to that question is false. People generally don't get rich playing the lottery, very few. In fact, if you play the lottery, chances are worse than 1 in 12 million. And the average person who plays the lottery every day would have to live 33,000 years to win once. And we contrast that with the chance of being hit by lightning, which is 1.9, 1 in 1.9 million. So winning the lottery is not generally a path to becoming a millionaire. Second question. At age 18, you decide not to drink soda from a vending machine and save $1.50 a day. You invest this $1.50 at 8% until you are 67. At age 67, your savings from not buying soda from the vending machine are almost $300,000. So true or false, you don't drink soda from the time you're 18 until the time you're 67, and you invest that $1.50 a day at 8%, you have $300,000. And the answer to that is true, right? It's these small dollar amounts even that add up over time, and that of course is due to compound interest, okay? Compounding makes small amounts grow faster. Now, of course, if you were getting 8% in a savings account, I would be shocked, because I think it's under 1% for most savings accounts. But the point is still relevant, that money over time is a very powerful thing and should be considered in our planning. Our third question, most millionaires work fewer than 40 hours a week. Most millionaires work fewer than 40 hours a week. Okay. That is false. About 2/3 of millionaires work 45 to 55 hours a week. So 2/3 of those folks work more than 40 hours per week. I hope you're all 3 for 3 already. We got one left here. Most millionaires drive expensive new cars. Most millionaires drive expensive new cars. The answer to that question is also false. Most millionaires spend under $30,000 for a car. Only 23% of millionaires drive a current or new model, so this year's car. So I share those with you just as sort of a springboard into what we're going to be talking about. And part of it is our perceptions of what is and actually what really is. So hopefully we can flesh out and look at some other things that might be helpful here, along with how to become a millionaire. So one of the things I want to start with is just to point out the upcoming sessions of this series. They've got the dates are on this. This is actually from an article last Thursday or Friday. And the sessions coming up are excellent. So be sure and mark these dates down. May 10th, debt with education. June 14th, debt and medical expenses. Then we skip off to September for buying versus renting. October is identity theft and cybersecurity, and then planning for retirement will be on November 8th. So I'm going to share a few resources with you that you might be able to look at in preparation for each of those events as well. All right, so we'll get right into it here. And again, if you have questions, please ask me those in the chat, or we'll get them at the end. So if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. That has been attributed to Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland, but it's actually, that's not the full quote. The passage, you can read it here for yourself if you choose, actually says, so long as I go somewhere, so long as I get somewhere, and I added that emphasis there. And what we're really trying to do here this evening is to put a plan of get you thinking about where you'd like to go and maybe some tools that would help you to achieve some goals. And so really this session tonight is going to be laying a little bit of a foundation of where you'd like to go. And so what I would like to point out in sort of these rules for improving your financial life, and this is from an organization called the Council for Economic Education. They have excellent resources for teachers and some for general audiences. But we're really going to kind of look at this first one, education or training, some money management skills. The fourth point here, spend less than you could. We'll talk about that. And then we're going to talk some more about decision making, that number 7. So these are kind of the 4 things that I'm going to address here tonight, and I think you'll be able to take some things away that will be helpful. What we're doing here matters. Learning matters. We see that in credit scores, pre and post financial education mandates in these 3 states, Georgia, Texas, and Idaho. And credit scores are a real measure of, basically it's our report card for paying bills, right? And so before the mandate, Georgia average credit scores were 612. After the mandate, they went to 629. I don't know about you all, but my experience has been that it's easy to go from 629 to 612 maybe, but not as easy to go from 612 to 629. Okay, so that is real change. And so what you're doing and learning about will help you, that's for sure. So we're going to address this piece. I said education. It's not necessarily education, but investing in yourself and getting some skills beyond, for sure, beyond receiving your high school diploma. We can see the returns to that. Once we graduate from high school, our income, median income, this is for the country now, increases substantially from $619 a week. Now, this is the median, so half or higher, half or lower, but from $619 to $781. Okay, so getting that high school diploma is really important, and then beyond that, additional degrees or certificates or training will help differentiate your skill set and raise your income. One of the things I always like to talk about is a plan for increasing income, because that's how most of us earn our money, right? Very, very few people inherit their income, right? So we have to work for it, and this is a a good point to think about is how we can increase our skill set and increase our pay. When we do that, as we increase our education level, you see on the right of our graph, the unemployment rate for people with higher education levels goes down. And, it's when folks with just, don't have a high school diploma or just got their high school diploma, the unemployment rate is at that time 10, 11%. Okay, so way different than somebody who's got an associate's degree. It's 4% less than 4.5% less just by having an associate's degree. So really it makes a difference. What I'm going to be sharing with you tonight, these resources can all be found on our website, stlouisfed.org. And there's two different ways to go into our resources. One is by clicking this button, this red that says, or box that says for teachers and students. And then you would click on this resources for non-educators. All of our materials are behind that portal or behind that website. And most of what I'm going to show you this evening, in fact, I think all, is actually available on our teacher platform or portal called Econ Lowdown. Econ Lowdown is a free resource, and the website address is going to be on every page of anything I got from there. It's on the bottom of that web page. But you can use any of our resources without an account. You can just click on that on this resource gallery button, and you see where it says showing 522 resources. You can go in there and preview any of our materials and use them with no account or anything. And so the items I'll be talking about here, if you want to go back in and log in and look at them and try them out later, you're free to do that. And of course, if you have questions on it, you can also reach out to me. I'm happy to help you. So investing in human capital, again, is a way to improve our skill set, learn a new trade, learn a new skill. A lot of industry trends now. I know in Arkansas, we've had a lot of emphasis the last few years on coding and STEM and things like that. So anytime we can get new skills, the better. This is a great question, and I'm going to answer this right now, and thank you for asking it. Are the Econ Lowdown resources available in Spanish? We have lots of resources available in Spanish, yes, and more to come. So we have 2 native Spanish speakers on our team now, and we're translating as many videos and resources as fast as we can into Spanish. So yes, we do. Yeah, great question. Thank you. So I'm going to share just a few things that I think will be beneficial. Now, I didn't show these, the Spanish versions of these, but a lot of the resources I'll show you behind the portal are available in Spanish. So this one, investing in human capital, just going from left to right, we have a video on soft skills. How do you interview? Things like that. Completing the FAFSA, completing an I-9 form, projections for jobs. This second video is one from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So we have lots of resources available to learn how to do different things, completing paperwork. There's one on a W-4 too. So lots of ways to learn about and to find resources to increase your income, your human capital, and subsequently your income. This is just a screenshot of what these little videos look like. This one happens to be on college choice. It talks about the different options for going to school. They're all pretty short, 5-6 minutes, something like that, but they do explain various topics. This one is about the difference between for-profit, nonprofit colleges. There's a lot of for-profit colleges now. So this video kind of explains, well, what is that? There are different options for school, for certificates, things like that. And so we've got a number of resources available in that area. If you decided you wanted to go back to college or go to tech college or something, financial aid, we have resources on how to complete a FAFSA. What is a FAFSA? How do you choose a college? How do you do financial aid and scholarships? So lots of resources available for that. So kind of shifting, that sets us up here for really what economics and personal finance is it's a way of making decisions that are favorable. And so I'm going to spend this next few minutes on the importance of decision making and give you a few tools about decision making. So in economics, folks say we think at the margin, we think of the next decision, the added benefit or cost of the next item. So the additional income we would receive from getting an associate's degree. There's a benefit to that. So we think in terms of costs and benefits. And really, our objective in learning about personal finance is to have to maximize the benefit, whether that's to our income or to our retirement savings, or if we invest in our retirement accounts, whatever it is, we want to get the most benefit we can. Costs are those things that are unfavorable to us. So, just like having a flat tire costs us time and money, right? And so when we make decisions, we have to think about the costs, benefits and costs. And then finally, this concept of opportunity cost is whatever we have to give up when we make a decision. So this evening, you're giving up an hour of your time to be here with us tonight. So the opportunity cost of that decision is whatever you would have been doing instead. So when we start thinking like this, what am I giving up to get this? It really makes decision making become more logical, I guess is the way to say it, not as emotional. For example, I know people who do their budgets and they think about how many hours of work do I have to give up to get that thing, whatever it is they want. That's an opportunity cost. I'm giving up my time to get this thing. So that's really what we're setting up here. Now, decision making has this interesting piece, because that first line of the slide says here that people's choices have consequences that lie in the future. And so when we're thinking about decision making and planning and budgets, we're really kind of thinking about at least the present and the future. We can't undo things in the past, but we can work on setting ourselves up for a different outcome in the future if we do some planning. And so that's really what we're going to emphasize here is what can we do for the future. One of the tools that we have on our website is this online module called The Art of Decision Making. And I purposefully grabbed that web link at the top there, but econlowdown.org. And you can go through this module and learn about all the aspects of decision making, including this really helpful tool called the PACed Decision Making Grid. And you can see the model there. PACed is you define the problem, you list the alternatives, you choose criteria, evaluate the alternatives, and you make a decision. And you're making this decision based on criteria that you've chosen. And so this grid, you can use these decision-making grids for really any financial decision or any other decision, as long as you had criteria and alternatives. So I'm going to give you an example here. This decision-making grid is completed. This one is from an article that's behind our website called Renting Basics, On the Move Renting Basics. So what you have is there are some different apartment options, and you see the criteria. We're close to work, people my age, nightlife, close to major highways, close to public transportation, and then expenses. Okay, so it lists out each one of the places. You got the downtown lofts, central west end apartment, and so forth. And for each of those criteria, there's a plus or minus that goes in whether it meets those criteria. And the objective there is to make a decision, right? So you add up the pluses and minuses, and then whichever one of those places meets those the best, then that's your decision. So really taking emotion out of decisions, using logic and criteria is a really sound personal finance economic way of doing it. And even if you don't hold yourself to the decision that comes up from here, it does help you evaluate things objectively. And this kind of decision making can really help with your budget and planning as well. So one of the events coming up in this series is on September 13th, and it's about the differences between buying and renting. And that speaker will likely go into the costs and benefits of buying and renting. So in preparation for that, if you're interested, we have 2 articles. One's On the Move Renting Basics, and then we have On the Move Mortgage Basics, which might help you give you some background for if you're interested in that spot of thinking about those two. Then whoever the presenter is will likely address some of those same topics, and you'll have a good background. But if you think about where can you use this decision-making grid or this process, really anywhere. Buying a cell phone, buying a car, moving, choosing a college, there's all sorts of applications of that kind of tool, really. So from there, I'm going to shift over to budgeting and planning. And budgets are really a tool also. This definition is from the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis website. So a budget is an itemized summary of probable income and expenses for a period, a plan for managing income, spending, and saving. And the thing with a budget is, again, if we don't know where we're going, any road will get us there. If we don't know where our money is coming from, and even more importantly, where it's going, it's hard to save. It's hard to plan for unexpected events or emergencies, things like that. And so a budget really helps us to know where we're at financially. So I'm going to share a few things about budgets. I'll show you some resources that you could use for budgets, and we'll talk a little bit about those as well as some other planning aspects. So let me ask you, why use a budget? Of course, I said the planning aspects, but think about that. Why would we want to use one? What's the big deal, right? I've got an image I think that will help explain that a little bit. This is a little diagram I created. I know I'm not an artist, so I had to use clip art and all that, or arrows. But what I like to point out to folks is that if we want to try to build wealth, whether that's for retirement or to help family or for children or something, grandchildren going to college, whatever the case is, that you want to build wealth and have that, the objective is for that arrow on the left, income, to be bigger than the arrow on the right, spending. Okay. And when that happens, that wealth, which this is supposed to be a lake, okay, that's an inflow of income into the lake, and then an outflow of spending. That's the out drain of our lake. Okay, we want more income going in there than is going out. Okay, and when we do that, the lake gets bigger. And you see up on the right, inflation is just money that kind of evaporates off of our wealth. So we can't really control that, but we can control to some degree our income, and to some degree, even to a greater degree, our spending. Okay, so if we can make that income side bigger, then over time we will acquire more wealth. And so it's really the spending side of that. Once we've established we're earning an income, and we've established that, then the spending is easier to adjust. If we don't have a high enough income to support our spending, sometimes, like I mentioned at the beginning, you might have to go back to school, or, there's some people work part-time, 2 jobs, whatever. But the key here is that over time, we want to have more income than spending. Budgeting and planning, I think, there's some aspects of budgeting and planning that really go together. And I put in some of these topics that are worth thinking about here with budgeting and planning. A couple of these you've already seen with the school stuff. I would also add, learning about a mortgage, learning about renting, things like that. Those are all part of that decision-making process. And having a budget helps you to figure out how much you could afford if you were to buy a house, or how much of a car payment you could afford. You never want to ask or have the car dealer ask you, well, what do you want your payment to be? That's because they're setting you up there to get a car deal that's probably expensive and will take a long time to pay off. So having some of that knowledge ahead of time of your budget and your expenses will help you prevent being in a situation like that. The other thing I would add is insurance. This has a number of videos on insurance. Our Econ Lowdown has a number of videos on insurance, and it's a pretty important concept to add into that. You need to have enough insurance to protect yourself when something does happen. So back to the budget, we're going to have different areas of our budget, and this particular screenshot is for a student named Megan. Okay, and I just grabbed this screenshot. This is from a series called It's Your Paycheck. It's Your Paycheck is 9 lessons, and these are available in Spanish. But it's just a really basic introduction to budgeting. And you can see here it lists, that's her checking account. It's got her pay, she movie and a soft drink. Okay, and then at the bottom you see the budget, income, earnings, total income, and expenses. So really a budget at its basic level is income and expenses. Now, as you develop your budget, you'll learn about, and you'll see and some of you already have learned, I'm sure, but there are fixed and variable expenses, right? So our rent payment maybe never changes, very rarely, from the time of the lease or something. It's the rent payment's always $800. That's a fixed expense. Okay, variable expenses would be things that change a lot. So going out to eat at a restaurant is a variable expense. You don't really have to do that. It's a choice. We can go out or not, right? So we can adjust that a little bit. Fixed expenses are less inclined to change. Car insurance doesn't change much usually for the policy period, for example. So this, it's your paycheck. This is a really basic, here's what a budget is, here's how you do it. And you can work on these right on our website and play around with that, how to do it. We also have another course called Budgeting 101. This is a little newer version, but this one has it's a college student, her budget, and then post-college, and it's just really a simple figuring out this girl, I think her name's Reagan here, figuring out her budget and running some numbers. It really, they're similar content, but really important. Again, these, you just go to that website, econlowdown.org. You find budget 101, budgeting 101. I'll say it right yet. And you type that in, you'd find it, and you could work right through that module. No signing in or anything. Okay. I just put this here so you could get a look at. If you wanted to, you can go do these It's Your Paycheck lessons. You could go do them on your own. These are ones that I mentioned are available in Spanish, but there's some really important, what I think are really important foundational things about credit, about your budgeting, your planning, including credit. So W-4 and W-2, a budget, your credit history, credit report, and credit scores. Credit is just such a huge part of our, really, of the society. It helps so much to understand credit. It's really important. And I know I don't have the time here this evening to go over all of that, but I just wanted to point out that there are some resources. The last two, lessons 8 and 9, how much are you really paying for that loan? And then the rent to own or not to rent to own. Those are pretty important too, because those are issues that they're very expensive. Okay, using those services like rent to own, those are expensive services to use. So people, I'm a little distracted. I'm trying to remember. There's one of those that's illegal in Arkansas. I think it's the payday lenders are illegal. And Fran, you probably know that, if we could address that at the end. But there's one of those, title loan or payday loan are no longer legal in the state of Arkansas. But anytime it's a collateral based thing, those are very expensive, and high interest rates are charged to those consumers. Okay. I saw someone had asked about having a copy of the slides, and I can create a PDF of the slides. I should be able to share those if folks are interested in them. That should not be a problem. Okay, so budgeting and planning. Again, I want to just point out a couple of other resources. Banking Basics is one, and then Cars and Cash. The one on the right is just an article about car buying that's helpful. One of the things that we at the Federal Reserve Bank have talked a lot and researched a lot about is being banked and the importance of banking, as opposed to paying really high fees for things. Banks provide a lot of services free for their customers that other institutions charge a lot for. So banking is really one of those things we want to try to help demystify, so to speak. If folks have questions on banking, you can always send those my way, and if I don't know the answer, I can get you in touch with someone who does. Some of the important things about budgeting and planning, again, are those paying interest. How does interest get calculated? This middle one is the resource I was thinking of with the payday loans and the fast cash, pawn shop type things, those loans are typically very expensive. And then we do have another little personal finance conversation video on banks and alternatives to banks. So check cashing, all of that kind of thing. But these are really important because high interest rates can affect all areas of your budget. If you're paying a 15-20% interest rate on debt, that's a lot of money that you have to pay. So it's really important to keep that credit card balance as close to zero as possible every month to avoid those high interest payments. I mentioned earlier just briefly insurance, but we have a number of resources about insurance, and it's just one of those things that it should be part of your protection of your assets and your family and your property, things like that. It's important to understand some of that and to know how to shop for it. Insurance can get expensive, and there are ways to save some money on it. And so I would offer some resources here on how insurance and how it works and what it pays for. There's a number of different resources available for that. So I'm going to just share a couple of resources for these upcoming topics, and then I'll leave the last few minutes for any questions, or if I went fast over something and didn't explain myself well, you'll have to point that out to me, and I'll try to do that as well. But the webinars, going back to those topics, we have identity theft, retirement coming up, and then medical and education debt. And so we have, as you see here again, 522 resources on the Econ Lowdown portal. So a lot of those would apply to these topics. For example, we have a video on compound interest in our No Frills Money Skills series. And understanding compounding is really helpful because compounding works for you and it can work against you, right? If we're running huge debt, compounding can go the other way too, particularly with revolving credit card accounts that debt can pile up on us. So that video is there as well. Let's see what else we have. Ways to save. We have this video is about different investment options, 401k, things like that, how to invest. The differences between a 401k and a 403b and a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k. I'm assuming that, the retirement session in November, somebody is going to present on that. They'll know all about this topic. But it might be one that you want to go watch a 7-minute video and learn a little bit about it before, if you haven't done so already. So that might be one you could check out. And then the identity theft piece, really big issues with identity theft. I didn't have a chance. I was going to look at the Arkansas Secretary of State's office to see the numbers on that, but the numbers of identity theft and fraud are astonishing. It's just something people have to be diligent about in protecting yourself online. Good passwords and all of that kind of thing, and to not be taken advantage of. So those videos or that webinar will be excellent and helpful. And then these might be some other resources that would be helpful as well. The online security one on the way right there, that continuing education is a helpful video. And then these others are particularly about investment fraud. And so those are different ways that fraudsters use to get people to send them money, that kind of thing. I will say too, a lot of times it's the elderly. So if you, if you notice things if you have, elderly people in your family, or if you are elderly yourself and you're not sure about all the computer stuff, it's really important to keep track of that. It's because that's who fraudsters target. So just kind of a brief recap here. I mentioned this slide here at the beginning, or these rules for improving your financial life. So that first one I had said is to get a good education, and I speak to that, I guess, personally, because I didn't go to college right after high school. I went to work and took a little bit different path. Got my education more as an adult than as a kid, and so I can I have a story there myself. So I don't think it's ever too late to go to school. I think you can always improve your income by getting additional skills. And the statistics now, people change careers about every 5 years, and so it's not uncommon for people to go back to school. And there's lots of resources available to do that. Different types of education now online and all of that, so you can really take a class or two here and there as you have time. It's really pretty flexible these days. Learning some money management skills. Here tonight, I really have, I've kind of just given you homework, I guess, if you're interested in learning money management, because I gave you some budget ideas or budget resources to go out and give a try to. But I think it's important. This is the skill that listening to me is not the same as going and getting an Excel file template or a Google Docs, free Excel or free spreadsheet and putting together your own budget. That's really a good practice to get into, and it's something that literally anybody can do, and it's for yours and your family's benefit to know how much money you earn and how much you're spending. I'm going to spend just a minute here on this: spend less than you could spend. That goes in kind of hand in hand with this other one you may have heard called pay yourself first. And I didn't really talk about pay yourself first tonight because I'm sure somebody in the next webinars is going to talk about that. But pay yourself first really means you put away money into an account before you spend anything else at all. So if you decided you're going to save 10% into your 401k at work, then that 10% comes out before you pay any other bills. So that's pay yourself first. Spending less than you could spend takes some practice, but a lot of times, we get a pay raise, for example, and with that raise, I can afford to buy a motorcycle, or I can afford a vacation or something. Spending less than you could spend is staying underneath your discretionary income and doing something else with it. And typically, ideally, I should say, if you're trying to build your wealth, ideally, you would take what you could spend and put it away somewhere. Most financial advisor type folks, which I'm not, but most of those types of people say you should have about 3 to 6 months worth of income saved up. And so that's really, spending less than you could can help you get that set aside for any emergency or something. Or Once you have your emergency fund set up, then that can help you grow your wealth and, take vacations or donate it to charity or something someday. So spending less than you could is just kind of a good habit to get into to increase your wealth. Finally, that number 7, I really like, gather information before making decisions. We go back to that paced decision-making grid. That's how we're gathering that information and using really a logical form to a logical tool to make our decisions. And so I'll put this here. If you have questions for me, you're welcome to ask those now. I don't know for sure if I missed any questions in the chat or if we're good there. So
I had a question, Kris. When you were showing the budget and the various worksheets, so by going to that Econ Lowdown website, are those in a format where they're blank and I could print them and start to fill them in, or are they interactive, like where the fields, I sit there and type it in? Can you explain? I'm trying to get a sense of how user-friendly, I guess, some of the budgeting materials are.
So the ones I showed there are activities based on scenarios they read about.
Okay.
But they are interactive. So you type in them. But if you need a budget template, for your personal budget,
right.
Excel has, you can get them. They're all filled in. You just put the numbers in them.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah, there are a lot of freebies online how to do that. So.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I really appreciate, we didn't discuss you talking about some of the upcoming sessions, but I really appreciate how you kind of gave us some homework the wealth of information, it looks like, that we could just spend some time playing around on the website and watching some of those videos in 3 to 5 minutes. I mean, that's awesome. So,
and they're all free and they're not graded, so there's no.
Okay.
You just we have there's a lot of stuff on economic topics as well. Of course, I didn't show any of that stuff, but we have a lot of people that just go on there and try stuff out. So
could we see the slide with your contact information one last time? So if someone was interested in receiving a PDF, perhaps they could just email you directly. Would that be the best?
Yep, that's no problem.
Didn't mean to catch you off guard there with the showing the slide one more time.
How about, can you see it?
Kris Bertelsen at stls.frb.org.
Yep. And actually, I will put that in the chat, and then they can just.
Okay.
Then they can just.
Reach out that way.
Yep.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank everyone tonight for joining us. We know it's a lot of information, but I think knowing we can also go back and look at it again and have access to the slides. And I do want to encourage everyone to sign up to register for the one in May. It will be presented by a wonderful organization called Change Machine, and they will focus on avoiding and managing debt as it pertains to higher education or advanced education costs. So much like you did, or just like you did for this one, you can register for that one. And if you want to go ahead and register for all of them for the remainder of the series. So please tell your friends and family, and we again appreciate you giving us an hour tonight for this very important session. Thank you all.
Thank you.